going to give you guys a deep dive into the app here. I am logged in as an admin right now, but we're going to see most of the same things that HRs are going to be seeing. If there's anything that pertains just to you guys and anything internal you might be doing for account management, I will kind of point that out. But generally, we're seeing mostly things that the HR is going to be seeing. Usually, chronologically speaking, the navigation starts with the dashboard here. Usually, I find that it's a little bit easier to digest if I start by talking about the visa organizer. It's kind of TBD on which one of these two things is actually most useful when HRs are logging in, which is why they're still in the order that they're in. But for the purposes of this demo, we are going to start here with the visa organizer. The organizer is intended to be exactly what it sounds like. It's a view of all the employees that I have set up as an HR, any action that might be needed for any of them, what status they're in, sort of. We're not really exposing case status in the 3.0 UI for HRs anymore, as most of you guys already know. It's not something that they should have to memorize the 7 statuses of a case in the VisaNow app in order to be able to do what they need to do, so we're not really exposing that anymore. That being said, attorney review is a pretty important one, so we are going to display if a case is in attorney review. There's 2 different views of the organizer. This one obviously is more visual. We're finding that smaller companies, smaller customers are kind of gravitating towards this one because it's more digestible, whereas the view that looks like this over here is more like a spreadsheet and something that HRs who live their whole lives in spreadsheets are finding more useful. Any of you guys who worked on 1.0 will be excited to learn that we brought back the customization of this view. So if I come over here to the manage, the little manage icon, I can add and remove columns that I might want to look at. So if the reference number is super important to me, I can add that column in. Here it is. There's nothing in it right now. We're finding that this is most useful for people who want to look at certain kinds of expiration dates or compare expiration dates with other expiration dates. But everything on here is customizable, so you can add and remove whatever you want. 2 other cool parts about that. Thing number 1 is I can set up these columns however I want, and then I can name this group of columns something and save it. So the next time I can just go back and forth between the views that I have set up. So you can customize it and then it'll remember your view that way, so you can come back to it easily. The second cool thing is that it's all exportable. So if I got these columns the way that I want them, and now I want to actually export to Excel so I can do whatever fun shenanigans I might need to do from there, I can export using this little button, save it somewhere, access it later. Cool. So the other thing to note about the organizer, and this is true of both views, although it doesn't always look like it's true of both views, this is specific to a person. So one person is going to have one card on this view, and they're going to have one line item on the other view we were just looking at. So it's not case specific, if that makes sense. So we have had people ask, like, well, what if I have more than one case? What if I have my H-1B and a green card open at the same time? Something like that. We do have the ability to see 2 different cases. It's kind of going to look like this. So we're looking at this person's H-1B and then apparently a previous H-1B that they were tracking. If I click into that person, I can see information about both of them, but the card is just trying to let me know that there's more than one thing being tracked here. This is not working optimally for every use case yet, so just inside information for you guys to know. Right now it does when you're actually like tracking a case and you have an active case at the same time, but we want to work towards getting it, you know, for 2 actual cases that might be ongoing together. Yeah, just for your knowledge on that. I believe there's actually going to be like a question session at the end of this, so if anything I'm saying generates a question for you, write it down. We'll get back to it. The other thing, there's a difference obviously on this page. This thing is blue and all the rest of these things are orange. The way that it's working right now is actual cases, like applications in progress, are showing up as orange, and anything that would formerly be known as a tracking case is showing up in blue. Tracking cases are handled differently and better within the new app, so we're going to take a look at that in more detail once we get down to the employee case level, but just so you guys know and kind of explain what you're looking at here. So anything that is being tracked is going to have its expiration date listed, as that's what we're working towards. Anything that is an application in progress is going to show action item if there is one, or just whatever's going on with the case. We're not using on hold language anymore, but we're still going to display the reason why an attorney might have put a case on hold, so that it's in common language and not using scary words like on hold. If I do want to sort and just see everybody's expiration dates, I have little filters up here that I can do that. So if it's a case that's being tracked, we will already have that date showing, but if it's a case that we are working on, we'll see the primary expiration date associated with that case if we use this view. These other little filters can sort differently. If you want to see like the date the case was open, sort by the alphabet, you can do that kind of thing. Especially for larger customers, people are going to use this search bar. So if I want to find someone who is at the bottom of the list, I don't see them right away, I can quickly search for them here and pull up their card and their information. It works the same way on this other view. I can do the same thing from over here, and obviously it's going to load up anyone who matches what I've typed in. Pretty straightforward stuff. So that is the Visa Organizer. The other, well, there's a lot of new interesting changes, but another big one that's very different in 3.0 side is the Communication Center. We got a lot of feedback with 2.0 that it's kind of confusing to have to go all these different places for communication. If you're looking for a message about someone, you have to go to the Employees Communication Center, or you might have to search within your division, and that gets a little bit confusing. So we wrapped it all up into one thing here in the new app. So this is showing me an entire list of all of the messages that could possibly have been posted, whether or not they were visible to the employee. So 2.0 would call that the Employee Communication Center. 3.0 uses language like private or not private. So if I'm looking at all my messages here and I want to go ahead and post a new one, if I have it tagged about a particular person, like Mr. Paul here, I can still tag it with a particular case over here if it's about a specific one. If it isn't, it can just be a general inquiry. But this little box down here is going to change to say whether this post is visible to the employee or not. So right now it's checked. This post is only visible to this company. Does anyone know how to pronounce this company? I think they're our customer now. Yay. Good job, Havas. Welcome. Welcome to the area. So if I uncheck this box, then this message is now going to become visible to the employee and anyone who has access to their employee's account. So if they have family members or anything, it's still visible to them too. So it works the exact same way. We're just using different language, and everything's all in one place now. For anyone who's not sure where a message is going to go, we've also added this little text in here. So if I haven't typed anything in there yet, it's going to show me where this message is intended for. And I can still post it as normal. Down here, the messages do show up differently depending on whether they were private or not. So these messages that only the division can see have a couple things different about them. They have this little lock icon, which is easy to miss, but it is there if you really want to double check yourself. And that is explaining to us that this post is only visible to the division. The more obvious one is these gray stripy slashy things behind the message. If there was a message that was not private that the employee could see, it would just be blank and white without the little lock icon. So that's how you can know after something's already been posted, who can see it. For anyone internal who's using the Communication Center, whether that's attorneys, you guys, whatever, you can see where somebody was posting from. So whether they're active in V3, which is beta 3.0, and whether it was posted in V3. The difference is they can toggle back and forth, so they might have been active in 3.0 at one point, but then gone backwards to post a message. This is just kind of for your information, for my information about where they're coming from. Beyond that, a lot of the functionality of the Communication Center is the same, so you can still reply to messages down here. If I go ahead and post something, whoa, I wanted that text to go away. Brian, I think we found a bug. I post something here and reply to myself. All right. Well, we won't worry about that. If I did reply, I would see a little message underneath that says how many replies there are. So messages are still threaded the same way that we're used to, but it's going to show up with a little link down here that says how many replies are in that thread, so that you know there's more information if you were to go ahead and expand it. Anything that is a brand new response from an attorney is going to be automatically expanded, so you're not like hunting around trying to figure out what got responded to. it's going to show up, it's going to be in a different color, and it's going to display that it's new. So beyond that, again, I was trying to say that a lot of the functionality is the same. So you can still favorite a message. If your HR really likes something that somebody posted, you can do that. That would be accessible over here in their little favorites menu if that's what they were looking for. The difference between all messages and division messages is fairly self-explanatory. All messages includes things that the employees can see as well as things that the division posted privately. Division messages is just showing everything that the division can see. From either view, I have new search functionality. So one of the pain points of 2.0 is that you can't search for a particular case within the Division Communication Center, even if you tagged one. It's very specific. I'm going to guess that doesn't come up on sales calls a lot of the time, but it was a known issue with 2.0 that we've resolved. So if I want to type in looking for H1Bs, it's going to show me anything that matches that. If I'm searching for particular people, wow, guys, typing. If I'm searching for a particular person, it's supposed to load a little filter that I can actually, similar to how it works in 2.0, where you can load a little filter and then exit out, but you can keep adding as many filters as you want to have. Just don't want to do that for me right now. We also included some advanced search. So from in here, if I had different users in my account, for some reason this one is being weird, but if I did have any, I could sort by different users who might have been posting messages from this part. From case type, I can pick like all of a certain kind of case. If you want to do it that way. You can also do by date range now, so we have some of these pre-populated date ranges that you could choose from, or you could pick a custom date range and then pick your own, and it's going to load messages just within that date range, as well as any other parameters that you have set up. So those are the new search options that we have. Over here, we have search employees, so you can search for particular people's names up here in the search menu, but we also included a employee search over here, and it's basically just a way to load like a pre-filtered view of this that would be essentially the same thing as the Employee Communication Center, especially for people who are used to 2.0 and know that that's what they're looking for, and that's what feels normal to them. This is where they could come to do that. Additionally, if I had any brand new messages or replies posted by an attorney, right now I don't, but if I did, I would see those employees' names over here with a little bubble about how many new messages there were, and that's how I would know who has new messages posted and where I can go to look for them. This is also the same page where we include schedule a conference call. So if I would like to do so, I come to a page like this. I pick whether I want US or global. Right now, everyone should be picking US. And then the conference calls work pretty similarly to the way they do already. Be asked all the same information. It just looks a little bit more updated, so it matches with the rest of the UI. All the same fields over here. Include your name, attendees, what the call is about, all that jazz. So back to the dashboard where people get to when they start, but that doesn't always make a ton of sense to go into this much detail right off the bat. This is where, oh hey, some action items. I'm going to assume that was you, Brian. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you very much. So this is where action items will load. So action items have been enhanced on the 3.0 side. 2.0 had action items, but the way they work differently in 3.0s are more specific. So I'm seeing kind of a group of action items for all these different categories. So I have forms and letters to review for this case, so I see a list of what each form and letter is, and if I were to click on it, I would go directly to that form or that letter. So instead of just saying your case is in customer action needed, do something, we're actually saying what it is we need you to do and in what order we need you to do it. So these forms and letters are more important than uploading these documents down here for a different case for the same person. But this list is going to be organized essentially in chronological order, but then each case kind of understands a priority of its own action item. So you got to do the questionnaire before you're ever going to get to forms and letters, so that's going to be the first thing in your list. Got to pay your bill before you can submit to attorney review, etc. So it's smart enough to know what the order should be, and it's going to display them in that order. Submit to attorney review is going to be an action item on the list, so if that's something that you've unlocked, you've done all the things that you needed to do in order to get there, then it's going to be on your list for you. We also, we're not really fully using this yet, but something to point out is these little due date columns over here. So this is something that the attorneys can set on their end. So if we're working with a really priority, like a high priority case or something that's very urgent, the attorneys can mark a deadline, and then it's going to show up just a little bit scarier over here so that they know there's something that needs to be urgently done. And anything with the due date is going to pop to the top of the list in order of what those due dates are. So someday we'll get to the point where the system can populate its own due dates. That's biting off more than we can chew at this point, so we're just doing it manually to start with, and we're going to see how HRs react to that. There's some uncertainty of whether people would feel harassed by due dates or scared by due dates, or if they would actually be helpful, so we're going to take it a little bit slow. Within this giant action items panel, this is for HR roll-up of everything for all of their cases. There's also a way to view these just per case if they're working on one, or for the employee's view. But from their big view here, they can see everything for all of the cases that they might have to work on. And they can also see the corresponding employee action items. We do hear a lot about, well, we did hear a lot about how these didn't work great. They didn't segment themselves correctly in 2.0. So we made a lot of improvements as we were going to make sure that things are defaulting to the correct list, and anything that you didn't want to default to your list as the HR, you can actually assign over to the employee instead of just being stuck with it and hoping that they do something about it. So anything I should be doing is going to be in my list. If I want to pull something into my list that started out in the employee's list, I can do that. But we did make some improvements here, so it is a lot smarter about who's supposed to be doing what. All right. Same here. We can actually search by employee. So if I'm really interested in just one particular person, I can pull up just that guy's action items, and then I'm seeing a filtered view that's only that person. So somebody walks into my office, wants to know how am I doing on all these things, I can quickly pull it up. Also, new to 3.0 is the ability to add your own action items. So the system's going to generate everything that it knows about: documents, forms, letters, questionnaires, bills, all the usual stuff. But if I have something that I want to add that the system doesn't know about, something very specific to my company policy or whatever, the most common example of this is like getting started on a green card after the anniversary of somebody's hire date, or reaching out to a finance department to get something approved, or sky's the limit on what you want to use these for. So you can type in your category, your action. If you want to set your own due date for your stuff, you can do that. If you want to tag it with a particular employee, you can. So if I start typing this person's name, I can pick them. Ooh, really wants a category. I can also, once I've selected an employee, I can also associate it with a particular case. So if this is specific to his L1A, great. If it isn't, I can just leave it untagged, and then it won't link to any particular case. From here, I can either leave it assigned to myself as the division, or I can assign it out to the employee. So if they have something that they want to harass their employee about, they can do that via their own action items. So then if I go ahead and save that, it has generated for us an action item. And if everything goes according to plan, it should be over here. Oh, hey. So now it's down here. This is my custom action item that I made. If I want to edit it or reassign it, I have those choices. I do not have those choices for anything generated by the system. But since there's no particular system action that we could know if they did this or not, they are able to check it off by themselves. So once I'm done with something, I check it off, and then we are done. And the employee would do that for themselves too on their end. So that's action items. Pretty excited about that. There's a few other things over here in the dashboard view. The other reason I don't like to show this first is just because there's a lot of overwhelming amount of navigation over here, and that can be hard to digest for someone who is just seeing our system for the first time. So particularly on the sales side, I kind of avoid starting here, but totally going to be up to you guys and whatever your process is. I'm just going to show you where everything is. There's two other libraries on here, which we are learning a lot more about. They're new to 3.0, sort of. The first one is the document library. You guys are all probably familiar with the fact that documents populate. So a passport, for example, if I upload it once, it's going to populate onto future cases that require that document. In 2.0, though, there's no way to see what documents might be associated. You just kind of have to wait and see what populates next time you open a case, which tends to be fine, but we do have some need to be able to see and manage and proactively provide these documents, even if there's not an active case. So that's what we have introduced here with the document library. The document library exists for both the division and each employee account, and they are slightly different because those two groups need different things. The division document library here is going to include anything that is associated with the division profile here in the top folder. So another thing we're calling these is like suggested documents. So when somebody onboards for the first time, they might not be doing a case right this second, but we can get them started on uploading some of these documents if they have them, and that'll kind of save them the step later. We also have a folder for each person who might be set up as a signatory, and this is where their signature card comes from. There's probably more things that we could use the document library for, but that's how it works right now. We do hear that HRs are spending less time in here, and foreign nationals are a lot more interested in this. It's a repository for them and their own personal files and their family's files. So for them, we can take a look when we get that far, but it's a quick preview. For them, it includes a folder for their own personal files, so anything that should follow them between cases, passport, birth certificate, resume, anything like that. And then there's also a folder for each of their cases that they might have opened, so anything that we want to reference that had to do with that case is also going to be stored in its own folder, so that we know what version of something was used on which case, if that makes sense. For any of these documents in here, you can see help text over on this side pops up in a cool window so that you know if there's additional information available. If I do go ahead and upload a file, I was working on all kinds of interesting stuff. We'll upload that. So by the time I've uploaded a file, I have a couple of other options as far as once it loads. I can replace it, I can archive it. Basically, any of the management things you might need to do to that document are available once you've actually uploaded something. There aren't any documents that might expire at this point in the division side of things, but the employees document library, if there are documents that might expire, like a passport, for example, they're able to enter that expiration date all by themselves. If that passport lives to see a case and it lives to see GIA, GIA is going to be typing in what they think that expiration date actually is, and that's going to override anything that the employee had set up. So if they want to track their own stuff before they've seen an attorney, that's fine. They're welcome to do so. But anything an attorney enters is going to trump whatever they have set here. So now that we have uploaded, this is where we would find a list of everything that has been uploaded to this particular folder. All right. And we'll take a look at the employee one once we get that far, but that's most of the good stuff you might want to know. The other library is also new, kind of. So we had job titles in 2.0. You could store different titles that you might be hiring for. The problem with that is they didn't interact with questionnaire in any way, so nobody was really using it. We changed that with the 3.0 side. So jobs essentially have their own little mini profile, so you can save information about them, and that is going to populate forward into questionnaires. It really only works on questionnaires that we have revised. So this is another little quick tip for you guys, lest we try to sell the moon and disappoint people. But the H-1B is the only questionnaire that we've revised so far. We're going to keep going. TBD on exactly when each new case will have its own questionnaire, or when each case will have its own new questionnaire. For right now, it's just H-1B. But essentially, when you get that far in an H-1B questionnaire, you just see a little menu that's like, which job title do you want to use? And you can pick one that you've already stored, or you can create a new one. We are hearing from HRs that they're super excited about this because it means that you don't have to store all the stuff in a spreadsheet anymore. Has the potential to make any sort of audit or anything like that much easier because this has all been stored in here for them. I will say we didn't necessarily expect that response. So we didn't build in things like being able to export what is in here and being able to see exactly who has used which of these job titles or on what cases they were used. So I would expect that that's all coming, but it is not included yet. We are going to learn a lot more about how HRs are wanting to use this, but for now this is kind of what we have. So these are all the different kinds of things that you could store to a job. You can edit your list, you can add new ones, you can archive jobs that you no longer hire for. Some of our big companies have a ton of things in this list, so you can search if you know exactly what you're looking for. Standard stuff. We did something similar as well with job locations. So Again, we're only using this on H-1B so far, but if there's a question over where will this job be performed, it might be at multiple locations, you can store all the different branches or just different sites that somebody might be working at in this list, and then it's very easy to just add them in the questionnaire so that you're not filling it out multiple times. Add a new one over here. Works pretty much the same as the other tab. So that is new to 3.0. People are pretty excited about it. Not new to 3.0 is this reports tab, which is the next one down. We didn't explicitly change any reports between 2.0 and 3.0, so these work the same way you guys are already used to. This is just where they live now. It really is the same. You click in and they do all of the same things that they already do. So not going to spend any more time here. If you guys have questions, we can get to those at the end though. Settings is going to be familiar to you guys as well. It just looks a little bit different. This is where any of the division addresses will be. Also have a little shortcut over to the job locations in case they're thinking of those as other addresses of their division instead of specifically for the purpose of job. So we kind of put that in both places. Division profile, again, all information that you already know. And then division settings is where they would modify any of their employee abilities here, whether they can or can't submit to attorney review. This is where you guys or customer support on your behalf would come to inactivate an account if it's no longer needed. This is also where their shipping accounts and credit cards are, and your ability to subscribe to the notifications for this account. So it's in kind of an odd place right now. We're going to put it in a more helpful place, but for now, if you need it, that's where it is. Billing as well is going to be down here in the left menu. This is almost identical to the 2.0 billing center. Again, it just looks a little bit different. This is showing my total balance due for everything that I have, and then any account funds or retainers or anything like that I'm using. Down here is a list of all the bills and invoices. I can expand each one individually if I need to work with one in particular. I scroll down a little bit. This is where they would go to make a payment. Because I logged in as an admin level user, I'm seeing some extra buttons over here that you may or may not see depending on your access levels. So I'm not going to talk too much more about those, but the big important part is this is where they pay. So I'm going to highlight that one. You can also distribute charges from in here if that's what you need to do, or if they need to do. A few different views of this information. We can also go back and look at payment history, any credit memos that have been generated, account funds, and then this is where internally we're setting up information about their payment terms. So if they're on a net 30 or whatever it is that they're on, that's where we come to do that. Or whoever's doing it for you, this is where they'll come to do it. I don't know how much interaction you guys actually have with that screen. So search, right now I can search by name. We'd like to introduce searching by invoice number, but that doesn't work that way quite yet, but I can search by name. Everything else about this is pretty much the same. Information you guys are already used to, just in slightly different places. So the big idea is search for whoever you're looking for from here, expand this out to view any particular information about charges that exist on the case or whatever's been added. And this is where you would download a case statement as well. So that's one I hear about quite a bit. So this is where to find that. Moving right along. I'm going to make sure we have time to get to everything. Manage users is also down here in this left little tab. Again, it works really similarly to the way that you're used to, but it's set up a little bit differently. So manage colleagues is what we know today as division users. So if you're adding another HR, you're adding them here in this first tab as a colleague. Can see everybody who's already been added, whether or not they've accepted their invitation, whether an invitation was ever sent. You can also add a new person from here if a new HR is starting. We also have the ability to indicate a default signatory. So for people who are having the same person sign off on all their different cases, they don't have to pick that from a menu every time. So if I want to make this particular person my default signatory, now we have a little check mark here that she's the default and she's going to be selected for all of our cases. Everything else is the same. You can store their phone number, their job title, etc. This is also where we put the employee management. So this is where the employee users are going to be listed. Again, whether or not they've accepted. This is a little bit different from the way we did it in 2.0 because it wasn't like a user-specific view of this. It was kind of which accounts exist yet. So it's a little bit different as well, but we're finding that most HRs think this is easier to use, and this is closer to how they're thinking about it. So if I have a long list of employees, I can still search, same way as we could on the previous page. If I want to add someone new, I can do that from here, and that's going to make a new employee. Then transfer history has to do with transferring employees between multiple divisions. We don't need that for sales demos, so we're going to skip that for right now. We're going to come back to this add new link in a minute, but this is also the quick and always available in the navigation bar way to create a new employee or a new case, so you can start kind of from either. We're going to get back to that, but just to reassure you guys that that option still exists and they don't have to come here in order to get started on that process. Employee transfer, again, we're not going to talk too much about that for right now, but this is where you could view the history if and when you have someone who's transferring and we get that far. Surveys, if you have them available, external passwords, pending terms. I'm glossing over these because they aren't really things that I think you guys need a ton right now. But this pending terms and conditions is probably important. So you can see this little guy lurking up here, this bar that says there are pending terms and conditions. So as you know, if we open a case on the customer's behalf, they still need to accept the terms and conditions by themselves. So you're seeing this little bar, and then this page down here from the dashboard, pending terms and conditions, is where you would come to send them a reminder email if you need to manually generate one for their term.
You can also accept from that now, at least in 2.0.
Neat.
So that's
Sounds
coming.
good.
That will eventually be where they accept
Yeah.
it as well. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks. Alrighty. So that is kind of the big idea here on this dashboard view. Again, the most important thing over here is these action items. If I do go ahead and click on them, I go straight to what I needed to do. We'll use this one as an example. So if I am ready to work on a questionnaire and I click into my questionnaire action item here, this page won't really be here in real life, but this is trying to tell me that the case was recently created. But ideally, they actually jump all the way into the questionnaire and specifically the parts of it that are empty. So since the employer category has questions that haven't been answered yet, that's what HR is being directed to do. Over here on the employee side, they have a category as well, which is unfinished, so they're seeing it on their list. This questionnaire is going to be silly and take a while to load. While it's doing that, there are a few other things that we can look at on the page. This is what the inside of a case looks like. You guys have probably heard people talking about the pizza tracker type thing. This is that up here in its very primitive form. There's a lot more that we want to do with this, but this is kind of how it's working right now to try to give a picture to someone who's never done a case with us before or who isn't familiar with this process of how that's going to go. So that little timeline is going to update as we go and kind of check things off as we complete them. Particularly within the questionnaire, we still retain this idea of how done are you. So the questionnaire is 9% done. HRs can also pick between looking at all of the questions, so that's going to include anything that is assigned to the employee, or they can click this side and look at the things that, only the things that are assigned to them, so only the company questions or the company categories. We'll try again with loading this questionnaire in a different case. But the other thing that we can do, we can look at the entire questionnaire. So if I want to load the whole thing and not jump through by section, that'll make more sense when I find one that loads for you. And I can also review progress. So this is where somebody would come to see what all of the sections in their questionnaire are. You know what? We're going to abandon mission on this case because it is not wanting to load. Bear with me for just a second. On our way to creating what is hopefully going to be a working H-1B, up here, if I go ahead and select create a case, this is where I can pick whether I want to create it for somebody who already works here, who's already been added to the system. If I do that, I can go ahead and select them, and I'm going to get their dashboard that I can continue creating the case from. Or we can still do it the way where you're adding a new employee at the same time you're adding a new case. And this is the screen that you're going to get to for either of those options. So that's just make that choice from there. A lot of this functionality is going to be the same when you're adding a new employee at the same time you're creating their case. So you have to enter their information. You can invite them to join or not. If you want to fill out their department and reference number at the same time, you have the option to do that. But for the sake of not doing it that way, I'm going to go ahead and create a case for someone who already exists. So this is what we are calling the employee dashboard, essentially. So this is what the employees would see when they log in, and it's also a view that HRs can get to if they're dealing with one particular person. This earlier on the big action items page, I was talking about a page that is specific to each person or to each case. So that's what we're seeing in this little panel over here on the right. HR is able to see both tabs, so both their actions and the employee's actions. Employees are only able to see their tabs, so they're not paying a bunch of attention to how much progress or how little progress their HR is actually making. This is where we're seeing all the cases that are currently opened for Jason. If I still have action needed on any of them, I can go ahead and continue. We're going to be adding in this little sort of case progress or action item dealy over here so that they know which exact action is needed for each case. Right now, this is just telling us, like, in general, the most important case is an attorney review. But over here, if I have multiple cases or dependent cases, should be able to see it for everybody. So that's something that we're adding in right now. If you have someone with a ton of cases, you can go through here and kind of sort them. You can either do all of the visas that they have, active applications, or things that are done and that we are tracking. So this also is what we were talking about out back on the card view where that one thing turned up in blue and everything else was orange. The things that are in blue are when you track an expiration date like this. This is formerly known as tracking cases. We're trying our best to not call them that anymore, but that's still kind of what they are. So from here, you pick which kind of case you want to track. If HRs know this themselves, they can set it up themselves, or if it's something that you guys are helping them with, it's the same for both of you. If you want to record what date the case was originally opened, you can, whether it's active or it's already been completed. It's a little bizarre. Most of the time, if we're tracking something, it's probably complete, but in the rare situation where it isn't and you want to track something else, you can click that it's active. And then you just pick your expiration date. So if this is expiring next year in the middle of August, and I save that, then I have now set up in the system a reminder to do something about this case once that date begins to approach. And then this is going to load a page that will let me give me like quick access into the documents that might have been needed for that case. It's going to be the same list of documents that you guys are used to for tracking cases right now, but for people who do want to record any documentation that they received or they sent out, they can do that from those as well. So we don't have to do the whole shenanigans of going through questionnaire status and fake attorney review and all of that. This is actually something that they can set up by themselves. We do have the ability to turn this on for employees to use. Most of the divisions we've talked to so far have not been ready to take the plunge on that, but if you are talking to someone who wants to let their employees do this for their family members, you certainly may. That's something that we can set up. While that infinitely loads, sorry about the environment today, guys. It's having a little trouble. We'll take a quick look over here at the document library. We've already talked through most of it, so there won't be too much left to look at. Brian, are we having some sort of struggle with our servers? Do you know?
Not sure.
Someone...
Nothing's done with that environment either.
Okay. One moment.
You're trying a session. Is that what you're doing?
I'm just going to try staging and see if
Yeah, that's probably cool.
a different environment. We'll edit this part out too. Don't worry. All right. I'm going to try our luck with Inventive. So here's also a couple more examples of types of information that might show up on the cards. So whether or not a case has been sent out, when it was received, whether it's been completed, etc. So unless there's really nothing going on with the case, there's usually going to be something recorded here. All right, let's try this again. neat. This one loaded. So this is what the employees version of the document library is going to look like. They, again, have a folder for themselves and any of their personal files. They want to store those with us, typically going to be things like a passport. If it is something that could expire, they're going to be able to set that by themselves using this little date picker. And then that sets up a reminder for them to refresh their passport or whatever the case may be. And they also have a folder for any of the cases that they have done with us or that they are tracking with us. So this TN has all these different kinds of documents. You can see some of them were like customized by the attorney. So really anything that happened during the preparation of the case and that made a document is going to be listed in here. In real life, attorneys will be setting expiration dates on any documents that that are coming across their desk. So shouldn't be a reason anyone is ever modifying expiration dates after the fact. And then also they are going to have a folder for any reference documents. So it's a little bit different from the way it works today. But reference documents for the TN, this is where I could download the petition if it has been made visible. So HRs are going to be able to see this regardless. And then if we've made it visible to the employees, that will generate this folder and this file for them too. Okay. Back up here. I'm going to try our luck with creating a new case. So we went through most of the process already of tracking an expiration date. The only thing we didn't get to see was it load, but when it loads, it just loads a little square that looks like this, and it's going to be blue because it's being tracked. And we're also going to have a link to go to the documents for that. It's going to make a folder in the library as well if we have documents within a tracked case. Okay, starting a new case looks like this. So that's the left button. We did put all the most common cases at the top of this list, thinking that HRs who know exactly what they need, and if it's a common one, it should be very easy for them to find. If they want to scroll through the entire list and look for something else, they can. Otherwise, they can go ahead and search for whichever case they need if it's a weirdo. But most generally, I mean, let's be real, it's probably an H-1B, so we'll go ahead and pick that one. What does happen in 3.0, so these little guys, the preliminary questions on a case are called the refinement questions. It's refining down what fees, what exact kind of case are you going to be opening. It's a bunch of different variants of the H-1B in particular, but there's a bunch of variations on a lot of different cases. Usually, well, okay, in the 2.0 side, these would never pre-populate. That was not a thing that 2.0 knew how to do. But now, the first time they are filling out these answers, these are actually going to pre-populate for them next time. So the next time I go to open an H-1B, these are going to populate for me based on what my answers were the previous time. To save them that step, probably if you weren't a nonprofit last time you filled out this little page, you're still not a nonprofit, so we can just populate that for you. This is also where they can choose whether they want to distribute any of the charges or not, or you guys can choose that on their behalf. And then that gets set up from the next page. The next page is the one that has the add-ons on it as well. So this is letting us know who the case was for. If there are any add-ons available, this is where you could add them or not. So I do add premium. It's going to add the fees for me here. And then usually I don't think people are really modifying their shipping information, but if they do have something they want to change, they can update it from here. It's still just going to default to whatever their primary shipping account is. If they want to use ours, they can. If they want to add a new one, they can still do that. So we didn't take away any of that functionality. Still works. Just lives in this menu. If you can't find it, just remember to expand that little guy. And then this is a list of all of the fees that they're being charged. Still itemized the same way it would be today. If I need to add a PO number, I can do that here. Standard stuff you're used to. I'm still logged in as an admin, even though we switched environments here. So I'm not seeing the ability to accept terms and conditions. If I was a customer, that would be down here. So they can't continue unless they do that. So this is going to go ahead and generate my case for me. Over on the right behind here, there aren't any action items. So in real life, this account didn't have anything that it needed to do. But once this case gets fully created, sometimes it takes a little minute, but that's going to fill out with all the action items. Something be kind of handy to point out so that people are noticing that they're not having to do this work by themselves or keep track of their own actions. They can also add, they can also add custom action items from this level. If I go ahead and dash. It usually helps the action items to show up, but they can add their own custom ones from either view, so from their big dashboard page that they would be seeing or from down here. These get stuck in the matrix sometimes, so we'll just wait until they decide to show up, but this is where they would be. This is the page they should be getting when their case has been created, and it should skip anytime you're clicking to the questionnaire from elsewhere. This is just letting them know you did it. You did a really great job creating your case. Here it is. The next thing you need to do is answer some questions and upload some documents. 3.0 is also a little bit different in that the questions and the documents are integrated, or can be. Again, the only case that we've revised so far is the H-1B, so that's the only one that's truly working that way right now, and I'll show you how it works for the other cases as well. But while we're clicking through each section, information that's auto-populated in 2.0 is still going to auto-populate in this new UI, so that's how we're getting this information here about who the signatory was and other information about the company. As we are going, I'm looking for a very specific section, so I'm going to click next a couple of but we also have now documents in with the questionnaire, so only for H-1B so far, but eventually this is going to be all of the cases that get this treatment. This is a very similar document uploader to what they have in the document section today. It's just integrated with questions. The thought being sometimes a question you answer will depend, it'll inform whether or not a certain document is needed, so we're just going to expose that at the time you're answering it. Or it might be that you needed some of your company financial documents or your marketing literature to answer some of these other questions in the same area. So if you already have it handy, you can just upload it while you're in there. They don't have to upload documents in order to move forward, so documents are still going to respect any deadlines that have been set up, and that's different for different cases, and attorneys can also set it manually. So documents are still supposed to respect that, and it's not going to prevent you from moving forward if you didn't attach something right now. Incidentally, this new word attach, it's actually going to show me a little preview of my document library. So if I want to use something that came from a previous case, so maybe one of my reference documents from this TN, if for some reason that's handy for this particular case, okay, well, other than in this environment, you can do that. And essentially, that's just a different way of getting files in here. So you can either drag and drop or click to upload from your computer, or you now have this new option of attaching something that was already stored in your library. All right. Then HRs and employees can click through per section. Works pretty much the same as questionnaires you already know about, just looks a little bit different. They can click through by section, or they can click this link down here to show the entire questionnaire, and then they're not clicking next every time. They're just getting a huge, giant, long page of all the questions that they might have. We do also have a way of showing just what's been, just what isn't answered, so the equivalent of view incomplete only. I'm going to show you one other quick thing before we move past this view, and that is the job information. So this little question, what position is this person applying for? This is going to be all the lists. Luckily for us, Inventive has a really giant long list of job titles that they've stored in the past. So this is really as big as the list could look. If I use one of them, it's going to, again, 2.0 only stored the title, so that's all that's going to come through in the beginning. But you guys are mostly onboarding people who are new to 3.0. So if they actually store all of these fields within the job library, they're all going to pre-populate into here. Inventive is not set up that way, but they will be once they start using it. If I don't see what I want from the list, I can go ahead and add a new profile from here. That's all the same fields that we would have used from the library. It's just a different way of doing the same thing. I'm going to show you one other thing with the job locations. And then we will move on to kind of the progress page. Okay. So if I say, if this person's going to work at any other locations, and I say yes, I don't need to answer that, but that is going to generate an entirely new section for me over here. The name of the game with the new questionnaires and the ones that we've revised is that we don't need to ask a bunch of stuff that might not be relevant. So we're only generating new sections or whole new areas of the questionnaire if someone indicates that that's relevant to them. So if I need this information, here it is. And this is where I would come and add a job location. So if I didn't see it on the list, I could add a new one from here. If this was one that I had already stored, I would have options here in this menu. I don't. Inventive hasn't used this because this didn't exist before. Last but not least, the one thing from the questionnaire is that it's more personal. So again, we can see that we're using the foreign national's name here. This helps a lot in situations where it's like, please indicate the salary that the applicant/beneficiary will receive upon hire, and the kind of silly legalese questions. So we work with GIA to figure out, how do we use humans' names and make this a little bit more personal for everybody. So in real life, HR could just continue clicking next until they filled out all of the questions that they are responsible for. But I do want to show you the progress page here real quick. That looks like this. So you'll notice we didn't have that left navigation as we were going through the questionnaire, which they had in 2.0, what you guys are probably used to, of what are all the different sections that make up this questionnaire. So to do that, if you do know exactly what you want to navigate to, you could come to this view here, which is review your progress. This is where you can see how many questions you have left in each of these sections and click directly into them. There's also, you can view this for the employee as well if we had turned on that option from before, which was looking at everything that was assigned to us only, or the entire questionnaire as a whole. So that would be the way to view the employee's version of this as well. This is going to show any documents that might have been needed or requested. Once everything has been completed and the case can be submitted for attorney review, this button is going to activate. It's already activated for us right now because we're logged in as someone who can override a case, so that's why we are seeing it. In the HR's world, this will only show up when it's something that they can do. Also, new to 3.0, it's going to pop up a little screen when the app thinks they're done with everything that prompts them to submit for attorney review so that people aren't accidentally missing it. So that's handy. Found that people were missing it, unfortunately. Also, if they would like to view only all of the documents, so not this integrated view that has documents as well as the questions, this is basically how you would get to like a document section that they might be used to if they were going to use the current site. But for any cases that we haven't revised yet, they're not going to have the documents built into the questions, so this is going to be the best place for them to go to look at documents. If you want to see that view, you can click it from here. It's going to give you like a little abbreviated version of the document library that looks like this. Also, if the action items would actually load, we would see a particular action item for every single document that was required, and it lets you drag and drop into there. So it's another way of kind of seeing the document list wherever you go. It's always available for you so that you know what you need to upload, or so that you can prepare and know what you might need to acquire, even if you don't have it right now. So I am going to make an attempt to find a case that has forms and letters for review so you guys can see what that looks like. Might get lucky and Inventive might have some. Luckily we can filter this thing, which I just remembered. All right, well, we're not going to worry too much about that. Let me see if this TN has any. If not, I can show you guys a screenshot later of what the forms and letters look like. It's super similar. Like, you guys would be able to talk to it the same way that you would right now. Aha, it just looks a little bit different in the new version. So this is the page that's going to show the different forms and letters here. It's all the same information. We didn't really like change any of the logic or the functionality behind forms and letters. We just changed how they show up. So you can actually click into each individual one. You can switch between forms and letters, which is exciting. That's not something that 2.0 knew how to do. So if I have this particular form or letter to review, I'm going to see this nice long list of all the information that was used on it. This case happens to already be done, but if it wasn't already done, I would also have a little preview option so that I can look at the FDF, not just all the kind of raw answers that it was using. Same thing for letters, except it's going to load my preview. This environment doesn't have documents stored in it, so it doesn't know what to load here. A real letter will show up in this area. We can all use our imagination. All right. Additionally, if this case wasn't already done, we would be able to change the owner of the doc or the form or letter here, that like delegating it to the employee, for example. So that's still something that they can do. Right. Let's see. that pretty much takes me to the end of all of the standard things you guys might have needed. I think we looked at everything. So unless there's anything glaring that I forgot, we can just move into the questions portion. Yeah? Right. Oh, okay.
When I looked at the billing center, I saw a bunch of options under the invoice. I know we have like cancel case built out now.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been talk or has it been suggested to offer a refund option or request refund? Because
Yeah.
it's really complicated for us internally. It'd be helpful if we could just pull all the info from the invoice and email it to us or email it to finance or someone.
Yeah. Got a nice email from someone recently that was explaining all the steps a refund has to go through to get approved. I was like, that's a lot. It might have
I
been.
sent a couple around.
Clearly.
I sent mine to Molly though.
All right. So yes, it has been discussed. No, it has not been prioritized.
Okay.
So it does seem like that would be a cool idea to kind of kick that off from here, but not something that is included yet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question about the communication center. You had
Cool.
showed how you can actually like click on or you can see how it's like locked.
Yeah. If it
Is
was
there
private.
any way after like someone in HR posts it, can they click on the lock and take away the ability for the employee to see it after they post it?
Ooh, they cannot. So the locking or the privacy follows the thread. So if the thread started as private, it'll stay private.
Okay.
If it started as not
I
private,
figured
it'll
with
stay.
the emails, it probably wouldn't matter either way. But
Yeah. We can still like go back and delete something if they posted it wrong. That's a lot of the reason why we included all this help text in the checkbox and who exactly can see this, so that we're reducing mistakes made and who can see it. Yeah, I think that'd be super cool, but we don't have that yet.
I had a couple questions.
Neat.
For the visa organizer
Mhm.
on the Excel style itemized list, can you click those columns to immediately sort by like reverse alphabetical order? You know what I mean?
Most of them you can. So if I want to search, Inventive has a long list of people, so that might take a second. But there's also these little filters. So some of them you can actually sort and reorder. Believe it or not, I'm trying to click on this and I think it's busy trying to sort whatever I just did over here. But there's also little filters so that if within this individual column I only want to look at TN cases, for example, I can
can
pick
uncheck.
which ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes.
Okay. And then in regards to the communication center, it might be all over the place for a second.
That is okay.
You had mentioned something about switching between 3.0 and 2.0.
Oh, yes.
So how do those threads stay consistent?
Good question. So anything that was posted in 3.0 as a private message is going to go to the Division Communication Center in 2.0. Anything that was posted as a non-private message will go to that person's Employee Communication Center in 2.0. So in order to mark something in 3.0 as not private, you have to say that it's about a particular employee, which is how we can kind of route it that way. Aww.
So that's the default status of that checkbox is private?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. We lost our tab here. We're going to reactivate it.
Do y'all have additional questions? Because I wrote some down, so I'm just going to keep going if you guys are ready. Jenny?
I'll go to
Okay. So this is more of a curiosity, but was there any particular reason why for the communication center there is division, private, and then no public?
Not necessarily. So anything that is a division message is going to be private because there's no one to share it with if we don't know which employee it's associated to. But as far as the language we are using, we learned we could not use the word confidential because that has legal implications that we don't mean. So using the word private or who it's visible to, that's just kind of how we ended up.
So you just for that reason alone, there's no like between all messages, division messages, favorites.
Mm-hmm.
There's no public message because that creates a legal issue.
Oh, let me see if I understand what you're saying. So if I click all messages, I'm seeing everything that's public and private.
Yes.
So you're saying could
And
there be a
then-
middle
yeah,
tier?
It just seems strange that you wouldn't include the option.
Yeah. Yep, I see what you're saying. So there's division messages, which is the same as private messages, but there's no option to look at only
Right,
public
because
messaging.
from what I understand, like one of the big benefits to this particular portion of the public versus private is that HRs can make general announcements to their foreign nationals, especially if they have a large pool of them through the communication center.
Ooh.
And if you can't track like this, like when you're posting those, or you know what I mean? Not that you can't, but I think there would be a benefit to having the ability to just look at publicly posted messages.
So the communication center is still going to work the same way. So you're still posting a message to the attorneys that the employee may or may not be able to see. So using it kind of for mass communication is not something that 3.0 does right now. So I can see how that would be helpful, and I have heard that asked about before. But at this point, the HR is still only posting a message that just one particular employee can see at a time, if that makes sense. But I do think it's beneficial to be able to have kind of that fourth option up here to load just what was posted that the employees could see. That's a good question. Any more questions?
Yeah, so you were talking about for the H-1Bs specifically, does it matter? Or no, I'm sorry, that was my question. You could describe what location it's going to be in. Some HRs do different divisions for like different locations or whatever it is they want to populate into it.
Okay.
So does that mean it doesn't matter what division it's opened in, or is that what the transferring ability is for?
Yes. That is what the transferability is for. So the locations that we looked at in the job library are specific to each division. So in a situation like that, we would just need to set up every single division to use all the addresses from every other division.
Okay.
That would be the best way to do it, but they are specific. So I still can't open a case in one division and use information from another division. You just have to set up each division as a new job location here.
Okay. And then with the default signatory, say that there's 4 different people and the one person is the default signatory. Say that person is just out on sabbatical or whatever it is. Are they able to just go in and be like, okay, so just this one time ad hoc, we're going to have it to where I'm going to be the signatory instead?
Ideally, yes. It should be something that's easier for them. What we want to do is basically create an option for it so that it populates with the default signatory, but it's just very easy on that same screen that you're reviewing all of your charges to just change that person. Right now, like if somebody wanted to do this right now today, we could still do it on the 2.0 side, or we could have customer support change after the fact. But we do want to make that something that they can essentially override that or like make an exception to that.
That's all I got.
For the tile visa organized view, I'm not sure if this is included in the itemized as well. It probably is, I would guess, but it says explicitly the expiration date. So this might not apply necessarily to cases that we haven't processed. Maybe it will, and this might be something that like Jenny or Derek or Mayor might understand, but would it be possible, or has anybody suggested, incorporated some kind of notification that once like the attorney finishes processing the case and we know that we've gotten approval, they could plug in a date, let's say 3 years from that day or 6 months or whatever, and it says, this is your expiration date, this is your Visa Now recommended action date.
That's a good point. So that's kind of the recommended action date is when we would send like an email like today.
Right.
That's the way that they would know that. But that's an interesting idea. Something that we want to handle, I don't know whether it'll be in this view or this more spreadsheet-like one. But basically being able to say, yes, this is all of the cases that might be expiring 3 years from now, but what are the cases I need to take action on today? So there's a view for, there's an informational version and an action-oriented version. The way it stands right now, that's not something that we have solved in the UI. That would still be a notification that they're getting, but it is something that we're working towards.
Because I'm just thinking about, I don't know how it looks on the attorney side, but if users or HRs are able to plug in their own expiration dates, what I imagine is something similar on the attorney side, where once they're done, they can just click and be done with it.
Yeah, which for them is kind of how it works. I'll show you the page that they do that. They have this little guy called expirations. You might have heard it called reminders. That's what they're called in the current system, and apparently what the title of this little area is. But this is where they would come to add in a new one. So if we just finished somebody's H-1B or something like that, we have their I-797, and it expires on this date. It can save that, and then it adds a new email schedule for the customer and all the things, and it's going to show up on their little card. This does have something a little bit similar to what they're describing. Sort of. Next reminder is supposed to be showing like when are we going to send an email about this so that they know when it's coming. It does not appear to be working that way right now because it is showing the same date for the expiration and the reminder. So something we need to improve, clearly. But yeah, I like where you're headed with that one.
That's all my questions.
Cool.
I just had one more, and it was based off of something I was doing yesterday. One of my clients made a separate division for their parent company. So I was in 2.0 because I was trying to see what she was talking about at the time, and I can't figure out how to navigate between divisions. Is that something that we have out yet?
Okay, yeah.
I cannot figure it out in my life.
That is totally fine. You're not alone. So if somebody has multiple divisions, they have this little menu here, and this is going to let you switch back and forth between them. So this is going to show, if it's an HR, it's going to show anything that they have access to. So if they have access to 2 out of the 5 divisions, they'll see the 2. If they have access at the company level, they'll see all 5.
Would it show us that too?
It'll show you that as well.
Something just really blatantly obvious.
No, that's okay.
Kind of be
No worries. If that is missing for some reason, if you go back and try to do it and it's gone, let us know because we might have a
I'll check it out. I'll let you know.
Cool. Anything else?
Good.
Cool.
Oh, I did have one more, and this is more of like a concern, or I guess it is a question, but for the list of action items that it like prioritizes or whatever the case may be, when a case is initiated, does it give you this huge list of everything? And if it does, can the HRs customize that so they know like, okay, I know I have a ton of stuff to do on this, but for the sake of at a glance understanding what's my workload, can I like reduce that to one thing or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to go back to the other. Ooh, no, that was the other side. Okay. We're going to use our imaginations again. So yes and no. So when a case is first opened, it's going to have all of the things that you could do. So it's going to have, as an HR, it's going to have the portion of the questionnaire that you're responsible for, and it's going to have any documents that you need to upload. Ideally, that list is going to be pretty short for HRs because they shouldn't be responsible for too much, and they might have already uploaded it. So we could get that down to very few things. If there are a bunch of things, this isn't finished yet, which is why we didn't see it earlier. But if there's like 10 documents that are needed, that list is going to truncate basically after like 3, and it's going to say view more, and then you can go to the whole section.
That's great.
So it doesn't look as overwhelming, but all that information is available like opt-in essentially. Same with forms. Same if there's like a ton of sections within the questionnaire.
Yeah. And indicate that yes, there's a lot more here, but I just think it's a little either overwhelming or unnecessary to show an at-a-glance list that includes 30 items. It's not very helpful.
Yeah, it's a little aggressive at that point. So yeah, we do kind of truncate it. That being said, the new way that we're doing action items is wildly different from 2.0. So we're still paying a lot of attention to how are people responding. Can nobody figure it out? Or are they just calling customer support anyway? So through your normal channels or via app feedback, feel free to let us know how people are responding to that. Great questions, guys. Sounds like that's it. Cool. And cut. I don't know how to turn on the recording. Yeah, you got.
Beautiful.
That won't stop it.
Were you recording yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I think I still am because I don't understand how to work it. Where's my mouse?
If you saw the lack
Oh,
of
no.
the almost minutes ago.
Oh my gosh, did it die? No, it's still going.
Would never.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's ditched out, guys. I couldn't play it anymore.
I was,
Oh, that was the wrong
on the
thing.
verge. I was gonna pee myself.